I am 107 years old, and the quietest sound in my house is the one that hurts the most. It's not a sound at all, really. It's the silence of an old rotary telephone sitting on a small wooden table beside my chair. That phone has been there for longer than some of you have been alive. Its plastic is cracked down the side, a hairline fracture I've traced with my fingernail 1,000 times. If you lean close enough, it smells faintly of dust and warm metal, the kind of smell that clings to things that haven't been touched in years. The cord curls down from the receiver and loops against the table leg like a sleeping snake. It doesn't move. Nothing moves in this house anymore. But there was a time when that phone never stopped ringing. I mean, never. It would ring at 7 in the morning, my sister Helen calling to complain about her husband before he'd even finished his eggs. It would ring at noon, my neighbor Dorothy asking if I wanted to walk to the market. It would ring at night, my friend Margaret laughing so hard on the other end, I'd have to hold the receiver away from my ear. That phone was alive. This whole house was alive. The kitchen smelled like coffee and toast. The windows were always open, and there were voices bouncing off every wall like they belonged here, like they'd always be here. Now the phone sits in silence. It hasn't rung in years, not once. And let me warn you about something nobody tells you, something no birthday card or retirement toast ever mentions. Living longer than everyone you love is not a blessing. Sometimes, darling, it is a punishment. When I was young, I believed the same lie that you believe right now. Yes, you believe it too. Don't shake your head. I know you do, because every young person does. The lie is simple. You think time moves slowly. You think the people sitting across from you at dinner tonight will be sitting there next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. You think the phone will always ring. You think the voices will always be there. I believed it with every bone in my body. And why wouldn't I? The evidence was everywhere. My kitchen table had 4 chairs, and every single one of them was occupied on a Sunday morning. Helen would bring her terrible banana bread. God rest her soul. She never could bake. Dorothy would bring gossip from church. Margaret would bring herself, which was always more than enough because that woman could fill a room just by walking into it. The coffee pot was always on. The radio was always humming something in the background. And I was always in the middle of it all, half listening, half laughing, completely convinced that this was just how life worked. Noisy, full, permanent. I rushed through those mornings like they were ordinary, because they were ordinary. That's the trap. The most precious moments of your life don't announce themselves. They don't tap you on the shoulder and say, "Pay attention, this is the last time." No, they disguise themselves as regular Tuesdays. They hide inside a phone call you cut short because the pot was boiling over. They sit quietly inside the visit you canceled because you were tired, because it was raining, because you told yourself you'd go next weekend. I said I'll call her next week more times than I can count. I said we'll get together soon, like it was a promise the universe was obligated to keep. I postponed, I delayed, I assumed, and every single time I did, I was quietly, invisibly erasing someone from my life. I just didn't know it yet. You never know it. Not until the erasing is done and you're standing in a room so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat, and you'd give anything, anything at all, to hear that phone ring one more time. The moment everything changed was a gray afternoon in winter. I remember the color of the sky because I'd been staring out the window for most of the day. It was the kind of gray that doesn't promise rain, just heaviness, just nothing. The house was cold, not the kind of cold you fix with a thermostat, the kind of cold that settles into walls when no one's been laughing inside them for a while. I was sitting in this same chair, a blanket over my knees, listening to the clock on the mantel tick away at the silence. Then the phone rang. I want you to understand what that sound did to me. That phone hadn't rung in months. Months. And when it suddenly screamed to life, that sharp metallic bell cutting through the stillness, my heart nearly stopped. My hands gripped the arms of the chair. I tried to stand, but my legs were slow. My knees were stiff, and my fingers were trembling before I even reached for the receiver. The bell rang a second time, louder this time. Or maybe it just felt louder because the house had been so quiet for so long that any sound at all felt like an explosion. I picked up the receiver, I pressed it to my ear, and for one brief, foolish, beautiful second, I expected to hear Margaret's voice. I expected her to say my name the way she always did, stretching out the first syllable like it was a song. I expected laughter. I expected life. Instead, I heard a woman I didn't know. Young voice, professional, careful in the way people are careful when they're about to break something that can't be fixed. She said she was a nurse calling from a hospital across town. She said Margaret had been brought in 2 days earlier. She said Margaret had passed away that morning. She said she was sorry. The line went quiet. Not silent, quiet. There's a difference. Silence is the absence of sound. Quiet is the presence of loss. I could hear the faint static on the line, the ghost of a connection that was still technically open, but had nothing left to carry. I stood there in my living room with the receiver pressed against my ear, and I didn't move. I couldn't. The clock ticked. The gray light from the window fell across the floor in a pale rectangle. The house smelled like old wood and dust and something faintly sweet, the way places smell when they've been holding memories for too long. I placed the receiver back in its cradle. The click it made was the loudest sound I'd heard in months. And then the quiet came back, heavier than before, because now it was final. I looked around the room, the empty chairs, the coffee pot I hadn't used in weeks, the radio I'd stopped turning on because music sounds wrong when there's no one to listen to it with you. And a thought hit me so hard it nearly put me back in the chair. Every single person who ever called me by my childhood nickname was gone. everyone. Helen, Dorothy, Margaret, the neighbors, the cousins, the women who knew me when my hair was dark and my back was straight and my laugh was loud enough to fill a kitchen. Gone. All of them. And the phone didn't ring again. Not that day. Not the next. Not ever. Now that rotary phone sits beside me like a museum artifact, like a relic from a civilization that doesn't exist anymore. Dust gathers on the receiver in a thin gray film. And sometimes I'll admit this to you because I'm too old for pride. Sometimes I pick it up. I lift it to my ear just to hear the dial tone, that low, steady hum. It's not a voice, it's not a laugh, but it's something. It's proof that the line still works, even if there's no one left on the other end to call. The house smells like old books and wood polish and time. Outside my window, cars pass on the street. I hear strangers laughing on the sidewalk, young people with somewhere to be, and I'm glad for them. I am. But inside these walls, there is not one voice left that remembers the young woman I used to be. Not one person who can say, "Do you remember that summer?" and actually mean the same summer I mean. The cruel truth of living to 107 is this: you become the only witness to your own life. You carry every memory alone. And memories get heavier. I promise you they get heavier when there is no one left to carry them with you. You become a library that no one visits, a story that no one asks to hear. So listen to me. Listen carefully, because I am telling you the truth that most people don't learn until it's too late. And by too late, I mean standing alone in a quiet house at 107 years old, talking to a telephone that will never ring again. Stop assuming your friends will be there next year. They might not be. Stop telling yourself you'll call tomorrow. Tomorrow is not a guarantee. It never was. You just haven't been forced to learn that yet. The people sitting around your table tonight, the voice on the other end of your phone, the friend you've been meaning to visit for 3 months, they are not permanent fixtures of your life. They are temporary visitors. Beautiful, irreplaceable, temporary visitors. And one day, without warning, without ceremony, without giving you a chance to say everything you should have said, they will be gone. And the silence they leave behind will be louder than anything you've ever heard. Call them today, not tomorrow, today. Visit them this weekend, not next month, this weekend. Laugh with them until your stomach hurts and your eyes water and you can't breathe. Tell them what they mean to you, even if your voice shakes, even if it feels awkward, even if you think there will be another chance. Because if you are lucky enough or unlucky enough to live as long as I have, you will discover the terrible price of a long life. You become the last person left who remembers everything, and everything is so very heavy to carry alone.